You know the exact feeling. You send a message. Maybe it is something vulnerable. Maybe it is just a casual question to someone you really care about. You press send and you wait. A few minutes pass. That is completely normal. But then you see it. That tiny, quiet word at the bottom of the screen. Read or seen. You wait for the typing bubble to appear, but it does not. An hour goes by, then two. And somewhere in that quiet space, a very specific physical sensation begins to take over your body. Your chest gets a little tighter. Your stomach drops just a fraction. You check your phone volume to make sure it is not on silent. You check your internet connection just in case. You casually open their social media and you see a green dot next to their name. They are online. They are active. They are just not talking to you. The silence stretching between your phone and theirs starts to feel incredibly loud. It feels heavy. It feels like a quiet, agonizing rejection. If you have ever found yourself staring at a glowing rectangle, feeling your entire sense of self-worth crumble because of a delayed reply, I need you to know that you are not just being dramatic. You are not just being impatient or overly sensitive. What you are experiencing in that moment is a profound physiological response. It is your attachment system going into absolute overdrive. In psychology, we refer to this as anxious attachment. And when it collides with modern texting culture, it creates a perfect storm for emotional exhaustion. For someone with an anxious attachment style, a phone is rarely just a neutral tool for communication. It becomes a relentless 24-hour emotional thermometer. Every single message, every emoji, every period at the end of a sentence, and especially every silence, is weighed and measured to answer one terrifying question. Am I still safe with you? Do you still want me? I know exactly what that panic feels like because I have been entirely at the mercy of it. I remember a time a few years ago when I was getting to know someone I really liked. Things felt incredibly grounded when we were together in person, but the moment we were apart, the screen became a battleground in my mind. One evening, after a seemingly wonderful weekend together, I sent a simple text. I was just checking in, sharing something funny that happened that day. Nothing heavy, nothing demanding. I saw the read receipt pop up almost immediately at 9:15 in the evening. I smiled, setting the phone down, waiting for the familiar buzz of a reply. But the reply did not come. By 10 o'clock, the smile was gone, replaced by a cold, creeping knot in my stomach. My brain began scrolling frantically through every interaction we had over the weekend. Did I talk too much? Was I too available? Did I make a weird joke? Did they finally realize I am not exactly who they thought I was? By 11 o'clock, I could not focus on anything else in my apartment. The silence felt like a punishment. It felt like they were slowly pulling away, and I had to do something right that second to stop it. I had to bridge the gap before it became permanent. So, I sent another text. A question this time, something they would logically have to answer. Still nothing. The panic spiked. The fear of abandonment hijacked my rational mind completely. Without even thinking, I sent another message, and then another. I was trying to clarify, to apologize for things I had not even done, to somehow elicit any response that would soothe the burning anxiety in my chest. By the time I finally fell asleep, exhausted and hollow, I had sent nearly 10 messages in a row. When I woke up the next morning and looked at my screen, I felt a wave of absolute humiliation. The frantic green bubbles stacked on one side of the screen looked desperate. I had let my fear take the wheel, and the shame I felt in that morning light was suffocating. I realized then that my heart was dropping, not just because of a delayed text, but because I had handed over all my emotional stability to a tiny piece of glass. But why do we do this? Why does a delayed response trigger such a severe inner collapse? To understand this, we have to look closely at what is really happening beneath the surface. There are layers to this behavior, and none of them are actually about the text message itself. The first layer is the behavior, hyper-vigilance. When you have an anxious attachment style, you have been conditioned by past experiences to constantly scan your environment for signs of withdrawal. You become an emotional detective. You notice if they use fewer emojis than yesterday. You notice if their response time drops from 5 minutes to 50 minutes. You read a shift in punctuation as a definitive shift in their feelings for you. You are constantly gathering evidence to prepare yourself for being left behind. The second layer is the fear that drives that exhausting vigilance. Underneath the obsessive checking is a deeply rooted terror of sudden loss. When the screen goes quiet, your nervous system does not interpret it as them getting distracted by an email. Your nervous system interprets the silence as them realizing your flaws and currently preparing to leave you. To your brain, this is not a minor social inconvenience. It is an emotional emergency. You feel an overwhelming urge to fix the disconnect immediately, which is why the impulse to double text or over-explain is so incredibly strong. You are just a human being desperately trying to re-establish safety in the dark. But we have to go one layer deeper. Beneath the behavior and beneath the fear sits a core belief. It is a quiet, painful belief about your own worth. The reason the silence hurts so much is because, deep down, a part of you believes you are deeply unlovable, or at the very least, extremely easy to discard. You carry a hidden conviction that you must constantly perform, constantly monitor, and constantly earn your place in someone's life. If you drop the ball for a single second, if you do not manage their perception of you perfectly, they will realize you are a burden and walk away. So when they do not text back, it confirms your absolute worst fear. It tells you that you are not enough to hold their attention. The emotional cost of living this way is staggering. Over time, you build up a massive amount of internal burnout. You are constantly dysregulated. You spend hours of your day riding an agonizing roller coaster, soaring when their name pops up on your screen, and crashing into an abyss when they leave you on red. You end up exhausting yourself, and tragically, the pressure and anxiety you project can actually push the other person away, creating the exact abandonment you were so desperately trying to prevent. You ruin the natural rhythm of connection because you are trying to force it to be a permanent lifeline. This hyper-vigilance bleeds into everything. It is not always as dramatic as sending 10 texts in a row. Sometimes it is much quieter, but just as exhausting. It looks like having a friend who usually texts you with excitement, but one day they reply with a simple, lowercase OK followed by a period. Just that tiny dot on the screen is enough to send you into a 3-hour tailspin, wondering if they are secretly angry at you for something you said 3 weeks ago. You mentally rehearse apologies for crimes you have not even committed, just in case they confront you. Or maybe it looks like the exhausting game of emotional chess you play when you are the one replying. You type out a perfectly warm, natural response to someone you like. But before you send it, you hesitate. You delete it. You think to yourself that it sounds too eager, and you need to appear a little more detached so they do not think you are clingy. So you rewrite it to be cooler, shorter. You wait exactly 14 minutes to hit send, mirroring the exact amount of time it took them to reply to you. You are trying to protect yourself, but you are actually just trapping yourself in a cycle of inauthentic connection. You are managing an image instead of just talking to a human being. If any of this sounds like you, I need you to pause right now and take a slow, deep breath. I want to offer you a completely different lens through which to view your anxiety. You are not broken for feeling this way. Your reaction makes complete, logical sense when you understand human biology. Human beings did not evolve to communicate through glowing screens. We evolved over thousands of years to build trust through physical presence. We rely on hearing the warmth in someone's voice, seeing the softness in their eyes, watching the micro expressions on their face. That is how our nervous system knows we are safe. Texting strips all of that away. It is a communication medium completely devoid of biological reassurance. It leaves a massive, empty void of context. And an anxious mind will always fill a void with a worst-case scenario. Your brain is just trying to protect you. It is a survival mechanism doing its job too well in an environment it was never designed for. The anxiety is not a sign that you are crazy. It is just a sign that your nervous system feels blindfolded and is panicking in the dark. So how do we start to heal this? How do we stop outsourcing our peace of mind to a read receipt? It starts with uncoupling the data from the story. When a text goes unanswered, the data, the objective fact, is simply that they have not replied yet. That is it. That is the only actual fact you possess. The story is everything else your brain layers on top. The story is that they are bored of you. They are pulling away. You are too much. When the panic starts to rise, you have to practice pausing and explicitly naming the difference. Say to yourself out loud, the data is that there is silence. The story I am telling myself is that I am being abandoned, but I do not have evidence for the story. It feels mechanical at first, but over time, it creates a crucial, breathable gap between the trigger and your reaction. You also have to stop expecting people to instinctively know how your mind operates and start setting clear communication baselines. I had to learn this the hard way. I realized that assuming someone else's texting habits meant the same thing as mine was a recipe for constant heartbreak. Now, early on in a connection, I try to have a quiet conversation about communication itself. It does not have to be a heavy confrontation. You can simply say, hey, just so you know, I tend to get a little in my head if we go totally silent for a few days. How do you usually handle texting when you are busy? Or, if you know they are going into a stressful week, you can ask for exactly what you need. You can say, I know you are swamped this week. There is absolutely no pressure to keep a conversation going. Maybe just drop me an emoji at night so I know you survived. People who truly care about you will not find this needy. They will appreciate having the user manual to your heart. Clear expectations eliminate the dark voids where anxiety breeds. You also need a physical protocol for when the urge to double text or spiral becomes entirely overwhelming. Because logic will not always work when your nervous system is in fight or flight mode. When you feel that frantic energy rising, when you are staring at the chat window waiting for those 3 little dots, you have to break the physical loop. Put the phone down. Do not just lock the screen, put it in a drawer, put it in another room entirely. Change your physical environment immediately. Go splash freezing cold water on your face. Walk outside and feel the actual air on your skin. You have to physically remind your body that the world is much larger than the 6-inch screen in your hand, and that your survival does not depend on a digital notification. You are actively reclaiming your emotional regulation from the device. It takes time to rewire these deeply ingrained patterns. There will still be moments when a delayed text makes your chest tight, and that is completely okay. Healing is not about never feeling anxious again. It is about no longer letting the anxiety dictate your actions. You are allowed to care deeply about people. You are allowed to fiercely want connection. But you must remember that your inherent value as a human being is not measured by someone else's response time. A silent phone does not mean you are forgotten. It does not mean you are fundamentally unworthy of love. It just means there is silence. And in that silence, you have a quiet, beautiful opportunity to finally show up for yourself. To be the steady, reassuring presence you have been desperately waiting for someone else to be. The screen does not decide your worth. You do. And you are perfectly safe, right here, exactly as you are.